Friends, one of the things I like most about Lent is that Lent is and always has been a liminal season. Alex did a good job of explaining to the kids what liminality is, and I'm going to take it up a little bit more of a notch and talk a little bit more about liminal times, and particularly about liminal times here at First Plymouth for a moment. I do like the image of the doorway. And the liminal space is that threshold of the doorway. So that you have what you have known in your past in that previous room is no longer in existence. It is gone. It is behind you. You cannot get it back. And what is before you into the next room, you do not quite yet know. If you've ever had an opportunity to walk through one of those really long, deep thresholds where you actually have to go down a thin little hallway to get from one room to the next, and you can't see the next room ahead of you, so you have no idea what you're walking into, that is the perfect image of the threshold. That you have to leave what is behind you, walk through a time that you do not know what is ahead of you, and hope that you walk into the place that God is inviting you to be, into what is next. Now, the key about liminality is that when we talk about it, I'm talking about it using all these action words, like you're leaving what's behind and you're moving toward what's ahead of you. But here's the thing, the Israelites left Egypt, right? They left the slavery of Egypt. They walked through the Red Sea, the Sea of Reeds, that threshold, and what happened? They did not go directly into the land of milk and honey. They wandered for 40 years. Right? This is where that threshold image doesn't quite work, because we're used to, we go from one room right on into the next. This is where the Israelite story comes in very handy. The space of liminality can be anywhere from a split second between a door to 40 plus years. Right? And it can get frustrating. The longer that you are in that liminal time, the more anxious you are, because you do not know what's happening. You can't figure out what is next. You want to finally settle. The Israelites tried all sorts of things in order to help themselves feel comfortable. There's all sorts of stories where God's like, what are you doing? Just surrender, just trust me, just follow the pillar of light and the pillar of smoke and you'll get there. And they grumbled and they got mad at Moses and they got mad at God, and there was a lot of feelings. It's a great story to understand liminality, because all of the feelings that we have today, they had then. And somehow they figured it out. But here is the key. We cannot strive through liminal times. That's where moving from one room to the next image doesn't quite work. There are 3 movements that, I love the title of this book, but I don't have it memorized, that Susan Beaumont writes about in how to lead when you don't know where you're going, leading in a liminal time. And she talks about 3 movements, and we're going to explore each of these 3 movements throughout Lent. So if you miss a Sunday, which I get because spring break is happening and all sorts of stuff is happening this Lenten season, I'm going to really encourage you to go to the Lenten webpage on our website and watch the sermons, because each sermon is going to be really key in this discussion of helping you understand where First Plymouth is now and what we are hoping to do into the next couple of years. The first movement of liminality is that you have to move from knowing to unknowing. right? That what is behind you, what you have done in the past, what has worked for you in the past, won't work for you now. You have to unknow a lot. The second movement is that you move from advocating to attending. Advocating, we like to use that word to talk about justice work. This isn't the advocating that she is talking about. She is talking about advocating as in, I know the answer. I know what the answer is, and this is the answer, and I'm going to advocate for that answer, and we are going to do that one thing, and it's going to work. She is saying, you can't do that in liminal times. And that, my friends, is what got the Israelites wandering for 40 years. They kept trying to advocate and tell God what was next and what they needed, and God was like, no, you guys are going to wander until you figure out how to attend. And attending is what we're doing in our prayers of the people. Attending is where we turn and we care for ourselves as community. We care for the soul of First Plymouth. And the third movement is that we need to learn how to move from striving to surrender. We don't like that. And I will just say personally, that is the biggest and hardest movement for me in my life. I have spent decades struggling with God and how you surrender. And if you come for that week, you get to hear the struggle. But we go from striving to surrender. We cannot make it happen. We cannot force our way out of liminality. We have to breathe and be and surrender to God. Once the Israelites surrendered in those 40 years of wandering, God helped them put in the structures they needed to attend to each other and to be the people of God. And God led them to the land of milk and honey. But they had to surrender first. And so this Lenten season, we're going to struggle with what these three shifts are and dive deeply into them on different Sundays. But here is the thing, that there is one tool that helps us make that shift. And only one tool. And Alex asked the kids, and what did they say? Yes. What is the one tool? Prayer. Prayer. Prayer is the one tool that helps us make that shift. And it isn't just any old prayer. Because we like to think that if we are verbally praying and we sit down at the beginning of all of our meetings and we offer a prayer to God, that is the type of prayer that helps us in this liminal space. But that is not, that's a helpful prayer, but it is not the prayer that will help you shift from knowing to unknowing, that will help you shift from advocating to attending or from striving to surrender. That's this prayer. Holy love, blessed light, sacred life. Fill us with your presence until we are empty of all but you. And then you sit. You sit in the silence and in the stillness, and you let go of everything that is not of God, that is not of this supreme goodness that created you. And you sit, and you open yourself to the voice of God, for whom Elijah noticed came in sheer silence. And you sit. And you wait to feel that agency of God filling you up and helping you know what that next movement is. It is that silence. It is that stillness that allows us to open ourselves to where God is leading us. It is in that silence and that stillness that we can see the pillar of smoke and the pillar of fire to guide us and lead us through this time of liminality. And this is my invitation to you all. Come on Wednesday nights. For I know that not all of us can sit in stillness and in silence. Those of us who have that huge monkey mind that twirls and twirls and twirls in our brains, we have to move our bodies and give us something to do while we're waiting for that stillness and that silence to happen within us. And so some Wednesday evening prayers are going to give you something to do while we sit in silence. Others are going to invite you to move your body, and others are going to be that sheer silence and stillness. And so come and explore meditation and contemplation and find the one that works for you, because that is the tool you need now, in this moment. Friends of First Plymouth, you have been in liminality, in a liminal time since George left, since before George left. Since George announced his retirement, you have been in a place of liminality. You were preparing for him to leave, and then he left a little bit earlier, and so then Bob came, and you were in that liminal space of who's coming next, and Jenny arrived, and then COVID hit, and then you came out of COVID, and then Jenny left, and then Bob came, and now I have arrived. That is a whirlwind of liminality. And it is totally understandable that our anxieties are up, that our fears are up, that we want to strive and be done. We want to get through it. We have been in it for so very long, it feels like, and it is. You all have been in liminality for 6+ years. That is important for you to take in, important for you to acknowledge, so that you can realize that those fears, that anxiety, that what's next, what are we doing next, how are we getting to the problem, how are we solving this, that it's okay. That is all valid. That is all what happens when you're in that space for a long period of time without the leader who says, wait. We need to make these 3 shifts. We need to follow the pillar of smoke. We need to follow the pillar of light. We need to humble ourselves before God in stillness and in silence, and trust that we will be led at the appropriate time, not at our linear time, at God's kairos time, that time that is beyond our liminality. In God's time, we will be led by God's agency into the next steps of our vision, our mission, the next era of who we are as a congregation. And so this Lenten season, let us sit in stillness and in silence. And in that stillness and in that silence, share your anxiety, share your fears, share that buzz, that impatience, that desire to really strive through it and surrender it all to the holy, so that you can attend and be and follow. Amen.